Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. When someone loses you, when they finally realize that you're gone for good, it hits them like a storm they never saw coming. See, people take you for granted when you're around. They get comfortable. They assume you'll always be there, always be the one to answer the call, always be the one to care. And they don't even realize they had something special until it's too late. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about regret. Regret is a slow-burning fire, a weight that doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in quietly, settles deep, and lingers for a long time. See, when someone loses you, they don't always realize it immediately. At first, they feel free. They feel like nothing has changed. They go about their days thinking they can move forward without a second thought. But reality has a way of humbling people. And when it does, regret hits harder than they ever expected. In the beginning, they tell themselves that life goes on. They convince themselves that losing you wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe they distract themselves, find temporary replacements, dive into work, or surround themselves with noise just to avoid thinking about what they've done. They act like they're unfazed, like you didn't mean as much as you did. But that's just the surface. Deep down, a storm is brewing, and they don't even realize it yet. Then, one day, something shifts. It could be weeks later, maybe months, maybe even years. But eventually, life slows down just enough for them to think. And that's when the memories start creeping in. Maybe they see something that reminds them of you, a place you both used to go, a phrase you always said, a familiar scent in the air. It doesn't take much, just one moment, one trigger, and suddenly they feel it. The weight of their choices, the impact of their actions, the realization that they let go of something they should have held on to. Regret doesn't just whisper, it screams. It makes them replay every mistake, every wrong word, every moment they took for granted. They start remembering the way you loved them, the way you supported them, the way you were there when no one else was. And now they see what they never fully appreciated. They see the late night talks, the sacrifices you made, the times you stood by them when they didn't deserve it. They see the patience you had, the kindness you gave, the effort you put in, all things they never truly valued when they had you. But here's the thing about regret. It doesn't come with a rewind button. It doesn't let them go back and fix what they broke. It only reminds them over and over again of what they lost. And that's the kind of pain that doesn't go away. It lingers. It keeps them up at night. It makes them wonder what could have been, what should have been, and what they were too blind to see when they had the chance. They might try to push it away. They might try to convince themselves that it wasn't their fault, that it wasn't meant to be. But deep down, they know the truth. They know they had something rare, something real, something people spent a lifetime searching for, and they let it slip through their fingers. That realization is crushing. Because nothing, absolutely nothing hurts more than knowing you had something good and you ruined it with your own hands. See, people think regret is just feeling sorry, but regret is deeper than that. Regret is looking at the world and realizing that no matter where they go, no matter who they meet, they'll never find another you. Regret is understanding that time moves forward, but the pain of their mistake stays right there with them. Regret is knowing that no matter how much they wish they could turn back time, the door is closed and you are gone. And that's when reality truly sets in. That's when they finally understand what they lost. They feel the emptiness, the silence, the absence of everything used to bring into their life. They see the difference between having you and not having you. And they realize that they were never as strong as they thought they were. That without you, something is missing, something they can never replace. Regret doesn't hit like a thunderstorm. It doesn't come crashing all at once. No, regret is like a slow, steady rain that never stops. It keeps falling, drop by drop, day by day, reminding them of what they let go. And by the time they finally admit it, by the time they truly understand the depth of their mistake, you've already moved forward. You've already healed. You've already learned that you deserved better. And that's the hardest part for them to accept. Because now they're the ones left wondering. Now they're the ones looking back, thinking about you, wishing they could undo what they did. And all they can do is sit with that regret, knowing that they had something beautiful, something real, and they lost it. And nothing, absolutely nothing feels worse than that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. People don't always realize what they have when they have it. They get comfortable, they get used to your presence, and they assume you'll always be there. They think they can move on easily, that life will be the same without you. But life has a funny way of teaching people lessons, and one of the hardest lessons anyone can learn is the pain of regret. See, regret doesn't come when everything is loud and exciting. Regret comes when the noise settles, when the distractions fade, when they're left alone with nothing but their thoughts. That's when it hits them. That's when they realize what they lost. At first, they don't feel it. They tell themselves it's just another chapter closing, just another person walking away. Maybe they even feel relieved. Maybe they think they made the right choice. They go about their days, filling their time with distractions, surrounding themselves with people, pretending like nothing has changed. They convince themselves that losing you wasn't a big deal. But see, regret is patient. It waits. It lingers in the background, quiet at first, but always there. And then one day, something small, something they never expected, triggers it. A song on the radio, a familiar scent in the air, a place you both used to go. And just like that, it hits them like a wave they never saw coming. They start to remember. Not just the big moments, but the little things. The way you laughed, the way you listened, the way you made them feel like they mattered. They remember the way you were always there, even when they didn't deserve it. They remember the late night talks, the encouragement you gave, the way you believed in them when no one else did. And suddenly, they realize what they had. They realize how rare it was, how special it was, and they realize they took it all for granted. But here's the thing about regret. It doesn't come with a second chance. It doesn't let them go back and fix what they broke. It only lets them feel the weight of their mistakes over and over again. And that weight, it gets heavier every day. Because now, they see the truth. Now they see that they lost something they can never replace. And that pain, that's a pain that doesn't fade easily. See, when you're around, people don't always see your worth. They assume your kindness is a given. They assume your love is endless. They assume that no matter what, you'll always be there. They start to expect things from you without appreciating them. They think that just because you forgave them before, you'll forgive them again. They assume they can take and take and take, and you'll never walk away. But when you finally do, when you finally decide that you've had enough, that's when everything changes, because suddenly your presence turns into an absence. And that absence, it's impossible to ignore. At first, they might not notice it. They might not even care. But slowly it starts to sink in. The good morning text that used to be routine, gone. The calls just to check in, silence. The way you always showed up when they needed someone, no longer an option. And that's when the truth hits them. Your presence wasn't just a convenience, it was a blessing. You weren't just another person in their life. You were the person who made their life better. And now that you're gone, they finally see it. They start to notice the difference. They start to feel the emptiness. The world doesn't look the same without you in it. The things that used to bring them comfort don't feel the same. They reach for their phone to text you, only to remember that they can't. They scroll through old messages, trying to find a piece of you, trying to relive what they lost. They sit in the silence of their own thoughts, realizing just how much space you took up in their life. And it hurts. It hurts because they know they had something real, something rare, and they let it slip away. And the hardest part, they know it's their fault. They know they could have done better. They know they should have appreciated you when they had the chance. They know they should have valued you, loved you, cherished you. But they didn't. They took you for granted. And now all they can do is sit with that regret, knowing that no matter what they do, they can't get you back. Because by the time they finally realize the value of your presence, you've already moved forward. You've already healed. You've already understood that you were never the one losing. You were the one who got free. And that's the hardest lesson they will ever learn. Because now they are left with nothing but memories and regret, while you are out there living the life they never thought you would without them. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't always realize what they have when they have it. They get comfortable. They assume you'll always be there, always be the one who answers the phone, always be the one who understands. They start believing your kindness is a given, that your love is endless, that no matter how they act, you'll never walk away. They take and take without a second thought, and they never stop to ask themselves what life would look like if one day you just weren't there anymore. But reality has a way of humbling people. And when they finally do realize what they lost, regret hits them in a way they never expected. At first, they don't feel it. They tell themselves they'll be fine. They think life will go on as usual. They might even convince themselves that letting you go was the right decision. They distract themselves, keep themselves busy, fill their time with meaningless conversations and temporary company. They tell themselves they don't need you, but regret is patient. It waits in the background. It lingers in their mind, silent at first. And then one day, something small, something they never expected, triggers it. A familiar song, a scent, a memory they thought they had forgotten. And suddenly they feel the weight of their choices. Suddenly they realize they lost something real. They start to remember not just the big moments, but the little things. The way you laughed, the way you looked at them, the way you always seemed to understand even when they didn't say a word. They remember the times you stood by them when no one else did, the times you believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves. They remember the way you supported them, the way you showed up, the way you made sacrifices just to make their life a little bit easier. And the more they remember, the more they realize how much they took for granted. Because the truth is, your presence was never small. It was never just another part of their life. It was a gift. It was something rare, something people spend a lifetime searching for. But they didn't see it when they had it. They assumed it was normal. They assumed they could always have it. They thought that no matter what, you would always be there. And now that you're gone, now that they no longer have access to the love and support you gave so freely, they finally understand what they lost. They start to feel the emptiness. The absence of your presence isn't just noticeable, it's overwhelming. The good morning texts are gone. The late night conversations are just a memory. The warmth of knowing someone cared about them, truly cared, is now missing from their life. They reach for their phone, instinctively wanting to tell you about their day, only to realize they can't. They find themselves scrolling through old messages, rereading words they once ignored, now desperate to hold on to any piece of you they can find. And that's when it truly sinks in. Because see, when you love someone, when you support them, when you make sacrifices for them, you're giving them something priceless. You're giving them a part of you. You're giving them time, energy, effort, things you can never get back. And the saddest part, they didn't even notice when you were giving it. They didn't see the nights you stayed up worrying about them, the days you rearranged your plans just to make them happy, the moments you put your own feelings aside just to make sure they were okay. They didn't see it because they never thought they'd lose it. But now they see it in every quiet moment, in every lonely night, in every thought that circles back to you. And the hardest part for them, knowing they can't fix it. Knowing that by the time they truly understood your worth, you had already moved on. You had already realized that you deserve better. You had already learned that love is not about sacrificing yourself for someone who refuses to appreciate it. And now, while they sit with the weight of their regret, while they replay every memory in their mind, while they wonder what could have been, you are out there living your life, no longer looking back. And that is the kind of loss they will never recover from. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't always recognize a good thing while they have it. They get comfortable, they get used to your kindness, and they start believing that you will always be there no matter what. They assume your patience is endless, that your love has no limits, and that no matter how they treat you, you will always choose to stay. But life has a way of teaching people lessons in the harshest ways, and when they finally realize what they lost, regret doesn't just visit, it takes over. At first, they don't feel it. They convince themselves they're fine. They might even act as if letting you go was their choice, like it doesn't affect them at all. They distract themselves with meaningless conversations, with temporary people, with anything that keeps them from thinking about you. They might even tell themselves that you were the problem, that things are better this way. But deep down, regret is waiting. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the spaces between distractions. It doesn't come immediately, but when it does, it hits harder than they ever expected. It starts small. Maybe they hear a song that reminds them of you. Maybe they see someone who looks like you from behind, and for a split second, they think it's you. Maybe they catch themselves wanting to call you, only to remember that they can't. And then just like that, the floodgates open. The memories come rushing in. They start to remember not just the big moments, but the little things, the way you laughed at their jokes, even when they weren't funny, the way you always knew when something was wrong, even when they didn't say a word, the way you made them feel like they mattered, even when they didn't appreciate it. And that's when they realize the value of your presence was never small. It was never just another part of their life. It was the foundation that made their life better, even if they never admitted it. They start to notice the absence of your presence in ways they never thought they would. The good morning texts, gone. The late night conversations, nothing but echoes in their memory. The support, the reassurance, the comfort of knowing someone truly cared for them vanish. And suddenly the world feels a little colder, a little emptier, a little less bright. They begin to remember the love, the support, the sacrifices you made, the times you put their needs before your own, the moments when you stayed up late just to be there for them, the things you did that they never even noticed at the time. They remember the way you believed in them when no one else did, the way you encouraged them, the way you stood by them even when they didn't deserve it. And the worst part, they realized they never truly appreciated any of it. They were so caught up in themselves, so blinded by their own ego that they never stopped to see just how much you were giving, and that's where their pride comes in. See, pride is a dangerous thing. It keeps people from saying, I'm sorry. It keeps them from admitting they were wrong. It makes them believe they don't need to change, even when everything around them is falling apart. And that pride, it's exactly what made them lose you. They were too proud to admit they needed you, too proud to say they were grateful, too proud to appreciate you in the moment. They assumed they could always fix things later, that you would always come back, that you would always be waiting. But they were wrong. Because eventually you got tired. Eventually you realized that love is not about one person giving while the other takes. Eventually you chose yourself, and by the time their pride finally cracks, by the time they finally understand what they lost, it's too late because you have already moved on. You have already healed. You have already found peace in knowing that you gave your best and that was enough. And now, while they sit with their regret, while they replay every mistake in their mind, while they wonder what they could have done differently, you are out there living your life, no longer looking back. And that is a loss they will never recover from. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't always recognize the value of something while they have it. They assume your presence is guaranteed, that your kindness will never run out, that no matter what they do, you will always be there. They take your love for granted because they never truly believe there will come a day when you walk away. But life has a way of teaching people lessons the hard way. And when they finally realize what they lost, regret doesn't knock politely on their door. It crashes into them like a storm they never saw coming. At first, they don't feel it. They convince themselves they'll be fine, that life will go on as usual. They distract themselves with noise, with other people, with anything that keeps them from sitting alone with their thoughts. Maybe they even feel a sense of relief at first. Maybe they think they made the right choice. Maybe they believe they'll find something better. But regret is patient. It waits in the background, lurking in the silence. And then, one day, out of nowhere, it strikes. It could be something small that triggers it. A song on the radio. A scent that reminds them of you. A place you both used to go. And suddenly, a flood of emotions washes over them, and they really realize what they had. They start remembering not just the big things, but the little details. The way you laughed, the way you showed up for them, the way you understood them like no one else did. And that's when it hits them. They lost something rare. Because the truth is, your presence was never ordinary. It was never something they could easily replace. But they never saw that when you were right there beside them. They assumed they could always find another person like you. They assumed that love, patience, and genuine care were things that could be found anywhere. But now, with you gone, they begin to see the difference. Life feels emptier. The warmth that your presence brought is missing. The late-night conversations, the thoughtful gestures, the way you made them feel safe and loved, all of it is gone. And in its place, a void that no one else can seem to fill. And the worst part for them, they start to remember just how much you gave. They remember the nights you stayed up late just to comfort them, the way you believed in them when no one else did, the countless ways you made their life easier, ways they never even acknowledged at the time. And suddenly, they feel the weight of their own blindness. Suddenly, they realize how selfish they were, how much they took without giving back, how they let something beautiful slip through their fingers without a second thought. But do you know what keeps them from appreciating you when they have you? Pride. That same pride that made them believe they didn't need to change. That same pride that kept them from saying thank you when you deserved it. That same pride that made them act like your love was something they were entitled to instead of something they were lucky to have. They were too proud to show vulnerability, too proud to admit they needed you, too proud to admit they needed you, too proud to admit to give back what they so easily took. And now that same pride turns into regret. Because when you finally had enough, when you finally walked away, they realized something. They weren't as strong as they thought they were. They weren't as independent as they pretended to be. Because now, without you, they have to face a truth they never considered before. Finding what you gave so effortlessly is nearly impossible. They go out into the world thinking they can replace you, that they can find another person who will give them the same love, patience, and devotion. But soon they start to see the difference. The new people they meet, they don't understand them the way you did. They don't listen the way you listened. They don't care as deeply, don't show up as consistently, don't offer the same level of comfort and safety, and that's when the regret deepens. That's when they start comparing. That's when they realize they let go of something they will never find again. And the hardest part, they know they can't go back. They know they can't undo the damage. They know they had something real, something rare, something people searched for their entire lives, and they let it slip away. And now, while they sit with their regret, while they replay every memory in their mind, while they wonder what they could have done differently, you are out there living your life, no longer looking back. And that is the kind of loss they will never recover from. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't always recognize the value of something when they have it. They assume that the love you give will always be there, that your patience is endless, that no matter what they do, you will always choose to stay. They take your kindness for granted, thinking they have all the time in the world to appreciate you. But life has a way of teaching people lessons in the harshest ways. And when they finally realize what they lost, regret doesn't just tap them on the shoulder, it crushes them. At first, they convince themselves they'll be fine. They tell themselves life will go on as usual. They surround themselves with distractions, other people, work, social media, anything to keep their mind off of you. Maybe they even feel a sense of relief at first. Maybe they think they made the right choice. Maybe they believe they can easily move on. But regret is patient. It waits in the background, lurking in the quiet moments. And when it finally hits, it hits harder than they ever imagined. It starts with the little things. A song that reminds them of you. A familiar scent in the air. A joke that only you would understand. They reach for their phone out of habit to share something with you, only to realize they can't. And suddenly a flood of emotions rushes in and they really realize what they had. They start remembering not just the big moments, but the small ones, the ones they never thought they'd miss. The way you laughed at their jokes even when they weren't funny. The way you always knew when something was wrong, even when they didn't say a word. The way you made them feel like they mattered, even when they didn't show the same effort in return. And that's when it becomes clear the value of your presence was never ordinary. The value of your presence was it was never something they could easily replace. But they never saw that when you were right beside them, they assumed they could always find another person like you. They assumed that love, patience, and genuine care were things that could be found anywhere. But now, with you gone, they begin to see the difference. Life feels emptier. The warmth that your presence brought is missing. The late-night conversations, the thoughtful gestures, the way you made them feel safe and loved, all of it is gone. And in its place, a void that no one else can seem to fill. And then they begin to remember just how much you gave. The sacrifices, the late nights, the way you supported them even when they remember how much effort you put into the relationship, how you showed up, how you gave without expecting anything in return, how you loved them in a way that was rare and selfless. And that's when the regret deepens. Because now they understand they had something real. They had something people search for their whole lives. And they let it slip away. But do you know what keeps people from appreciating what they have? Pride. That same pride that made them believe they didn't need to change. That same pride that kept them from saying thank you when you deserved it. That same pride that made them act like your love was something they were entitled to instead of something they were lucky to have. They were too proud to show vulnerability, too proud to admit they needed you, too proud to give back what they so easily took. They assumed you would always be there, always waiting, always willing to forgive. And now that same pride turns into regret. Because when you finally had enough, when you finally walked away, they realized something. They weren't as strong as they thought they were. They weren't as independent as they pretended to be. Because now without you, they have to face a truth they never considered before. Finding what you gave so effortlessly is nearly impossible. They go out into the world thinking they can replace you, thinking they can find another person who will give them the same love, patience, and devotion. But soon they start to see the difference. The new people they meet, they don't understand them the way you did. They don't listen the way you listen. They don't care as deeply, don't show up as consistently, don't offer the same level of comfort and safety. And that's when the regret becomes unbearable, because now they realize you weren't just special, you were irreplaceable. And that's the hardest part of it all. They finally see what they lost, but by the time they do, it's too late, because while they were busy taking you for granted, you were learning your worth. You were realizing that love isn't about constantly proving yourself to someone who refuses to appreciate you. You were healing, growing, and moving on. And now, while they sit with their regret, while they replay every memory in their mind, while they wonder what they could have done differently, you are out there living your life, no longer looking back. And that is the kind of loss they will never recover from.